Can I react to Swedish Medium Tanks developer diaries? Yeah, they got
Welcome.
What is it on YouTube? You want me to do that? Do you actually want me to? What is it on YouTube? I guess I heard something was going to happen about it. Let me see if I can find it out. Developer diaries new Swedish Medium Tanks. Fine, I'll do it. You want me to do it? You want me to watch it together? Okay, Twitch, we'll watch it together.
It wasn't that long ago that the Polish heavies arrived.
People have given this a lot of likes.
Just recently appeared.
Come back anytime.
Interesting that Wargaming gets so many likes on their videos now. It's interesting. I guess this is obviously well received. Anyway, let's figure it out ourselves. Okay, here we go. Here we go, Twitch. Let's watch Developer Diaries together. This is from the Wargaming EU YouTube channel. I'd recommend going and checking it out yourself if you're interested. You can see I've subscribed. Oh, I'm such a good baby. Okay.
But we're already ready to show off something new.
Show me.
Hello everyone, my name is Yuri. I'm the lead balance designer.
Hello, I'm Alexei Ilyin. I'm the World of Tanks product manager.
Now let's talk about the new branch of the Swedish Medium Tanks.
The first Swedish tanks were released in 2016 with two interesting branches.
And in my
For
opinion,
autoloader
one of the
fans,
best
there were the
releases
heavies with
ever.
well-protected turrets and guns with good depression angles. And
That
Swedish TDs
Christmas
were
of
unlike anything in the
2016
game
was
before.
one of the best
The
in World of Tanks
branch became
history.
the first branch with a special new game mechanic. This was a so-called siege mode. We had our share of concerns about how these innovations would be perceived by players.
They fitted in the game well, in my opinion.
2 years later, we can safely affirm that the vehicles became very popular.
Yep. And I don't think they had that much of a negative impact. I think it was just a fun playstyle to add in.
The Swedish tech tree is one of the best trees regarding player demand. Now it's time to expand it.
There are already Swedish medium tanks in the game, but only up to Tier 7. After that, it's a heavy tanks branch. At the time of release, there was an idea of expanding the medium tank line to Tier 10, and work was done with this in mind. But there were no archive materials and no great gameplay concepts for the top tier tanks at the time. But now we have a solution.
Researching the new branch of the Swedish medium tanks will start at Tier 7 with the Leo. Then for Tiers 8, 9, and 10, we'll add kind of, well, let's just...
So 100% confirmed uncheck accelerated crew training in your Leo, boys and girls, just like Mr. Ricochet said. I'll try and guess how much experience you're going to need to unlock it later on.
Just call it a sub-branch. And traditionally, the main gameplay features are placed at higher tiers. As you progress, you'll be able to move along the heavy tank branch.
There they are. Holy moly. So they look like bat chats, Swedish bat chats. What the hell? Like there's 6 different tanks? Hold on. Is that them with different turrets, maybe? Stock turrets and upgraded turrets? That's weird. How many vehicles have we got here? A lot. So they look like bat chats. This one's like a UDES bat chat. It's like a UDES and a bat chat had a baby. So, okay.
These new medium tanks.
Low profile by the looks of it. They can have epic camera ratings, I should imagine.
Starting from Tier 8, the Swedish medium tanks will all have this gameplay feature. They will be able to adjust their clearance level and change their hull inclination angle, thus
say
giving
what?
themselves better gun depression angles.
At the first glance, the suspension of the new Swedish medium
It's going to be so
tanks is
awkward. You're
very
going to have to
similar
turn it
that
up
of
and
the
then point
Swedish
it down.
TDs. But in fact, there are more differences than similarities.
Oh man,
Siege
that's
mode
cool.
doesn't give the Swedish medium tanks any other advantages apart from additional hull inclination. However, it's turned on automatically as soon as the speed drops to a...
That's actually going to make your front armor worse angled as well. So when you need that extra gun depression, it's actually going to be bad because you're going to stick your tank up further. It'll be nice to peer over like a ridge that you can't quite see over, but as soon as you do that to your hull, you're going to have worse armor.
Here's an example. You roll up to the hill and decelerate to start aiming. And when your speed is lower than 10 kilometers per hour, the vehicle switches to this mode and its suspension starts helping you.
If you start accelerating and are going faster than 20 kilometers per hour, the vehicle turns off this mode and its hull levels out.
Wow,
and
automatic.
to roll out as a regular medium tank.
Automatic
Keep in mind,
adjustment.
The speed at which the Swedish medium tanks enter.
Just say, like, why? Why do we need automatic adjustment? Is it because some people find the mechanic too hard to use in the Swedish tank destroyers, so they've just decided to make it, like, easy? I hate it when they make things easy for no reason, you know? Who's to say...
this mode is different from the speed needed to cancel it. So what are the advantages of the new suspension?
This mechanic will benefit these tanks in unusual situations in game. The total depression angle can reach 13 to 14 degrees.
Oh, hold on. Lo Yi, thank you so much for the ridiculous tips. Just 1 second, I've turned off the noise notification so that we can watch the video. Apologies, just 2 seconds.
Let's talk details now and take a closer look at these tanks. The candidates for the branch were selected from the projects of the UDES 14 program. By early 1970s, the Swedes decided they needed a replacement for the British Centurions and homemade STRV-103 tanks. The military came up with the requirements. They wanted a combat vehicle weighing between 20 to 30 tons, with a gun caliber from 105 to 120 millimeters, the ability to ford water obstacles by swimming, and, more importantly, a rotating turret. It appeared that the STRV-103 was lacking. Two companies worked on the project, Bofors and Haglunds.
The first vehicle of the new branch is the UDES 14 at Tier 8. This is a medium tank with quite a traditional design. It is a very good gun. The stock gun is 90 millimeters, but the top one is 105 millimeters.
Was that 390 Alpha at tier... Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa! Whoa, whoa, whoa! 390 Alpha at tier 8, 105 millimeter with 288 millimeters of penetration. It's literally got the UDES gun. It's got the UDES gun. 330 pen. What? Look at that high explosive 480 as well. Woof.
Top one is 105 millimeters.
Hold on, that can't be right. Why does it say rate of fire 8? That can't be right. No, that can't be right. This is wrong. This is wrong. Just ignore this. This is wrong. There's no way it's going to have a rate of fire of 8 because that would give it a better rate of fire than the STB1. Is this the tier 10 or is this the tier 8? That's wrong. No. Just ignore the stats. That looks like it's wrong.
105 millimeters.
It's wrong. Wrong stats.
Already at Tier 8,
Don't even get excited about that. That's so not right.
The vehicle design will be very similar to the regular medium tanks. I mean, you'll have a turret, and the tank silhouette will be quite high, similar to regular medium tanks. So the only difference in gameplay will be the air suspension feature.
Air suspension feature.
We have a vehicle called the UDES 16. It will only have researchable 105 millimeter guns. Here we are on the final stretch. This vehicle is very similar to the top one. Of course, their characteristics are slightly weaker, with allowance for its tier. What's interesting, it will have a researchable turret.
Okay, researchable
Here starts
turret.
the gameplay with the 105 millimeter guns and good depression angles. Players will be able to fully feel all advantages of this vehicle design, its mechanics, and gun strengths.
Here's something that's interesting. Because of the way that these tanks are going to depress their gun, that means that you won't have all of that gun depression over the side of the tank. So you're literally going to have to think about making sure that when you go to look over a slope that you're doing it with your front, whereas quite often you might reverse and then try and look over the side of your tank. It's not going to work with these vehicles.
But enough about Tier 9, because everyone wants a Tier 10 vehicle. Let's talk more about it.
At Tier 10, we have the UDES 15, the final vehicle in the branch. Beside all the above-mentioned
UDES
features
15,
and the hydropneumatic suspension, it also has a well-protected turret, shifted further toward the hull's center. So, the vehicle design is quite convenient. Another vehicle feature is this 120mm gun.
Oh!
Not many medium tanks
boy
have
gun.
such a gun at Tier 10, so the damage per shot will
Did
be
you see?
high.
They say that it's like a front-mounted turret. I'm not sure what you all think, but that looks like a very much rear-mounted turret to me. That's pretty much bang in the middle. That's a little bit back. That's kind of front. That's middle, right? I don't know. It looks like a rear-mounted... This thing better have side armor, because this thing's going to want to side scrape. Hopefully it has a decent turret here. Hopefully this area of the turret is strong and it can side scrape. But it'll probably be a glass cannon.
Have such a gun at tier 10, so the damage per shot will be high. Regarding its use on the battlefield, it will have no equivalence. Because a medium tank's main task is to reach certain positions faster than heavy tanks, and do flank raids and so on and so forth. This Swedish medium tank should be played similarly, but it has excellent gun depression angles that you can use by playing from behind the terrain folds, and the turret is very well armored, so it can even repel hits from other tier 10 vehicles.
By the way, high damage per shot should be a feature of all top-tier Swedish medium tanks.
High damage
There
per
are
shot.
several more common traits. Surely it's the suspension giving the tank additional gun depression angles. The armor with not so impressive thickness, but these vehicles are sturdier than they seem.
All tanks in the branch will have quite...
I bet you these tanks are going to be incredibly annoying because they're probably going to have like 40 or 50 millimeters of armor. And what that means is that you'll be able to bounce 120 millimeter caliber guns or 150 millimeter caliber guns, but you won't be able to bounce a Badger, and you won't be able to bounce, for example, an Object 268 firing AP, or you won't be able to bounce any heat rounds.
well-armored turrets. In general, you will be able to shrug off shells of medium tanks of the same tier, and of some heavy tanks, but hardly any from tank destroyers. The reasons for this are quite obvious.
The whole armor will
No,
have decent...
no, they're not. They're not obvious at all. For at least for all of you out there, I explained them before they said. It's not obvious. It's because the nominal thickness of the gun has to be the caliber of the gun, if it's over 3 times thicker than the nominal thickness of the armor, then it overmatches. It's not obvious at all. It's a ridiculously complicated trait in World of Tanks that's not discussed at all.
sloping. But you shouldn't expose it because its armor is not that good.
The medium tanks won't have such a high reverse speed as the Swedish TDs. They have the dynamics typical for their class.
So it's just going to be like
In
medium
general,
tanks
all
with
these
big
medium
guns.
tanks won't be as fast as the French vehicles. They are more like Soviet medium tanks.
It looks faster than the
I mean, they are
M48.
quite mobile, but without any big surprises.
The top Swedish medium tanks contain another
These things are
feature
gonna
of the
be
National
weird.
Tank building school.
They're like
They are
lightly
very
armored
compact.
mid-speed
I think
mediums
everyone
with big
remembers
guns.
the STRV 103B and its small size, both in terms of length and height. So the Tier 10 Swede will be of similar size. This will be one of the smallest Tier 10 tanks. It will be very low and stealthy and hard to hit.
Interesting. So I guess its camo rating is going to be really high.
Soon, the new Swedish tanks will be sent to super test for the first iteration of testing. First of all, we need to be sure that the new feature of the Swedish medium tanks will fit into the game well.
We plan to test the Tier 10 tank first. We'll see how its 120mm gun performs.
When they say whether it will fit into the game, what's there to say? If it's a bigger gun, lightly armored bigger gun, it's basically going to be something like a slightly slower Leopard prototype that has a bigger gun, right? I guess the camo will be good on it. Like a single shot bat chat? Weird, you know? But slow? What is there that's like this? It's a bit like a Revelarice, isn't it? It's a bit like a Revelarice. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
If all goes well, we'll go down the branch.
They're going to do it anyway. There's no... It's going to happen. There's no option. If they've invested this much in these tanks, they're never going to pull a feature. When they say this, it kind of like irritates me a little bit. I guess they're going to use the super test to fine-tune the statistics of the vehicle. I guess that's what it's going to be. It's not whether we're going to see them or not. We're definitely going to see them.
If we have any issues with a 125mm gun, we can just check how the vehicle with the 105mm gun plays.
Okay,
We
that's
can
good to
adjust
know.
the damage values. At
Exactly.
the moment, damage per shot at Tier 10 is planned in the range of 440 to 460.
440 to 460 for tier 10, boys and girls. Well, if it's 440, that's not that impressive because there's already the Object 430U. And really what this will be, it'll be the same speed as an Object 430U, but it'll have none of the armor. And it'll be like a 430U that sacrifices all of its armor to be able to gain gun depression.
It's quite a lot, yeah.
But if it's 460, I just can't see these being meta tanks, you know? I mean, if it's going to be 460, then sure, it's the highest alpha damage medium tank, which is exciting. But also, just having high alpha and by 20 doesn't really mean that it's going to be the best thing. We've got heavy tanks that are driving around just as fast, if not faster than this, that have armor. Fair enough, they don't have the stupid gun. Well, the gun depression this thing's going to have like 13 degrees. Be interesting.
It requires a longer gun reload time. And we have concerns it won't fit a medium tank.
Since there are no accurate historical prototypes, we will use balance settings for them. And depending on the sum of parameters, we will take decision on the final characteristics. This gives us opportunity to set up both speed and general mobility of the vehicles correctly, as well as their firepower and armor. We hope that these vehicles will be interesting and bring you enjoyable gameplay.
Keep an eye out for more details.
Interesting. All right, so all in all, what do I think about Swedish medium tanks from what they've said? Well, firstly, good job to Wargaming for presenting their ideas in an interesting way. I have to admit, when you look at how they present their ideas now compared to how they used to present their ideas, it's night and day. It's the way that they present the information now is just so much better, and it's just wonderful to be able to actually gain insights into what they do. On the other hand, I'm a bit skeptical because I feel like these videos are a little too late and what they're doing is already done and that there's no opportunity to even influence it at all, even if you test. Like when you test things on the common test, you're not really changing anything. By the time it gets to the common test, it's 90-95% done. You might twiddle a tiny little bit of the statistics here and there. What do I think about the line all in all? Obviously, it's going to be feeding on from the Leo. That's going to be great. I mean, more Swedish tanks. I love like little hipster vehicles like this, you know? It'll be really fun to have more Czechoslovakian tanks, more Polish tanks, more Italian tanks, more Swedish tanks. We just don't need to constantly have new Soviet lines, new German lines, new American lines, new French lines. I guess you could argue, well, these were the actual tank creators, right? Or these were the ones that had large armed forces and lots of different various prototypes, and that's why they go into the game better. I think it'll be cool. It'll be nice as well to have a high-tier medium tank, because you will then be able to actually crew train the Stridsvagn M42, 57, and crew train the Primo Victoria in a meaningful way, right? At the moment, your Stridsvagn M42 and your Primo Victoria are kind of useless because, well, for crew training, because all your training is a Stridsvagn 74 or a Leo if you like those two tanks. So it'll be nice to have the tier 10. So, yeah, I think it looks good. The idea of them being mid-speed is interesting. They're not going to be just like these glass cannons that drive around and be high damage dealers. I would argue what's really the difference between those kind of vehicles and some of the faster tank destroyers, like, they need to make it different to the Stridsvagn 103B, right? I think that the Stridsvagn 103B is probably going to end up being faster than the new UDES, whatever it was called, UDES 15. So I think this tank will be fast. It will have higher DPM. It's probably going to have better penetration, or maybe the same penetration. We'll have to see what they decide to do. Obviously, this will have less alpha. I just don't really see them being that different to something like a Swedish tank destroyer. It's just basically going to be a Swedish tank destroyer with a turret that has a toned down gun, right? I think that's how they're going to play. I think that's how they'll play, ladies and gents.